Today's guest, Florentin Ionita, is an extraordinary individual who guides and empowers individuals to explore the fascinating world of astral projection. We explore his experiences and the profound impact astral projection has had, not only on his perception of reality, but also on the lives of others. Join us as we discuss its benefits, the misconceptions surrounding it, and how it can potentially unlock a deeper connection to the universe. Let's get right into it.
Welcome, Florentin. Do I say that correctly?
Florentin, yes,
Florentin.
that's correct. Thank you.
And Luciano, thank you for being here.
Thank you too, Joshua.
Today we're going to have a conversation with Florentin about, I think, mainly astral projection and possibly some lucid dreaming as well. Me and Luciano have talked about in the past a little bit about lucid dreaming and the possible benefits or how to do it. For us, it's not really a topic we understand, and we would definitely like to know more about it. Me personally, with the astral projection, I have very limited knowledge about it, and I've been fascinated by the topic for a long time, and I'm very happy that we get a chance to speak to you, Florentin, that we can get to know a bit more about the topic. And so thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's the first time I'm doing a physical interview like this with microphones and stuff everywhere. So it's different, but interesting.
Feels professional, right?
Very professional, guys. How good work.
I would love it if you could get us started with a little bit of your background, how you got into all of this, where you're coming from, etc.
Sure. So I was born in Romania. I grew up in Sweden, and I think most of my teenage years in my childhood, I was always fascinated about how things work. And when I was a kid, I would just open everything that I would see in the house. Like if there was a video cassette player, I would open it and try to figure out how it works. And I would just break things for the most part of my childhood, would just break everything. And then I started to understand how it works, and I started to be able to put them back together and also fix things when they were broken. And that was like a fascination I had with things, understanding how things work. And of course, as I grew up, I wanted to understand the ultimate thing, which is, what is this? What is reality? How does this work? And that was a question that started to take me on a very interesting path. And there was many things on the way that continued that spark of interest, like the movie The Matrix was one of those things.
Favorite movie ever.
Yeah. First movie that makes you kind of question your reality. Like, what is this? Is it a dream, or how do you know it's not a dream, or what is it, And so then I started to ask more questions, and I went to different festivals and retreats where I was hoping to find some answers, and I found psychedelics, which was a powerful way to experience an altered state of consciousness that was showing you something that was beyond what you can normally perceive with your physical senses. Normally, it takes you to a different state of consciousness. And I was now shown another reality, other things that I couldn't really understand. And it was opening myself even more to more questions. But it also gave me more understanding that what we're seeing and experiencing is just a fraction of what's really happening around us. And of course, if you go deep enough down this rabbit hole, at some point you will find out that you can actually have these type of experiences without any psychedelics. You can have out-of-body experiences with the power of your mind, with meditation and these kind of things. Mm-hmm. And so that's what led me to astral projection. And I started to explore it in different workshops. And in one of the workshops, I had my first experience, which was, it's always the most important one. It's the one where you just have an epiphany. You realize something about reality. And so the first experience that I had was simply, I did this meditation. You get into this very deep state. You kind of half sitting, half lying down so that your body doesn't fall off the bed if you're relaxing too much. And you get yourself very, very deep, and your body starts to fall asleep, but your mind is still awake. And at some point, your physical reality starts to kind of merge, or starts to dissolve. And you start hearing weird sounds, and you can also start feeling this vibration moving through your body. It's called the vibrational state. And when I was in that state, I was wearing this eye mask that I have with me today. For those that are listening, It's a black mask that covers your eyes completely. And there's no way you can see anything through this when you're wearing this. If you look at the sun, you won't see the sun. But in this state that I was in, I started to see through this eye mask, and I could see the room that I was in as clearly as I'm seeing you guys right now, crystal clear. And I was like, whoa, okay, maybe I'm opening my eyes, or how am I able, I'm wearing a mask. How can I see this? Like, what's going on? And of course, my mind started to become very active. And as your mind does that, you snap out of that state. So then the mask became black, and I started to see nothing again. So the vision disappeared. And I took off the mask at that point. I looked around, and the room looked exactly the same.
Did it scare you, that experience, or did you were expecting it? Was this a goal for you to achieve? Like, how did you feel when that happened the first time?
The first time that happened, I didn't have any fear. I wasn't expecting it because I didn't know that you could see through things at that point. So it was a big surprise. What I knew was that I achieved that state that we were looking for. I didn't separate. I didn't leave, because in that moment, if I actually tried to sit up from the bed or move away from the bed, I would have moved away without the physical body. And at that point, I would have been out of body traveling. But I didn't do it because I was so fascinated by what was happening in the moment, that I was seeing all of these things. And I could hear also, the thing was that I could hear sounds that wasn't coming from the room. I was hearing sounds that were sounds of river flowing and birds chirping in the trees. And there was no birds or river in the room. And it wasn't until like the second day or something that we went for a walk around the neighborhood, and I actually discovered that there was a river outside, but very far away, like 200 meters away from the house. Impossible to hear with your physical ears. But when you get into this state, you get different types of, what you call them, senses, more heightened senses. You can hear things that are really far away, and you can...
Always related to nature, or?
No, related to the environment that you're in.
Okay.
Or it could also be completely different environments. But for the most part, when that's happened to me, that I get into that state and I hear sounds, it's usually the immediate surroundings. So if I do it in a city like London, I would hear like loads of people talking, like loud conversations, as if they're sitting in the room next to me. And a couple of times I got so confused, I took off my headphones, I was looking around, and I'm like, who has entered my house? Like, I didn't open the door for anybody. It's so
you're also wearing noise-canceling headphones or music headphones or whatever?
So you're wearing some noise-canceling headphones, so you don't hear any sounds from the outside, and you just hear the soundtrack and the frequencies that we use to get into this deep state. But there's nothing on the soundtrack. There's no voices or anything except the person that guides you, which for the most part, it's me now. But
you actually have tapes of yourself guiding yourself into the deep state?
Well, I have tapes that I've created for our students, and I use the same tapes for myself.
Got it. Well done.
That's nice, exactly. So first you had tapes from somebody else, and now you became the one who makes the tapes.
But yeah, of course. Yeah, because I always find things that I could improve. That's it. So I guess I can just add some more to my story so that it get more of an understanding. So basically, like following this path of curiosity and searching for truth led me on a spiritual path, but on a career level, I was very fascinated by movie making, and so I started to study at the university to become a visual effects artist. And fast forward a few years, I started working with TV commercials, and I started working with movies, which was ultimately the goal, to work with Hollywood movies. And I worked on Iron Man 2, Superman, Man of Steel, many of these big blockbuster movies where people are flying and having all of these superhuman abilities, which I was fascinated about, sitting and creating movies that were showing these kind of powers. And under my spare time, I was discovering that we actually do have some sort of powers as well. It was kind of interesting how they were kind of going the same direction. And at some point during my movie career, I realized that I wanted to focus 100% on exploring consciousness. That working on the next big movie wasn't really that interesting. It was more interesting to focus on learning more about this subject and also teaching it, because I realized that this was something that nobody really knew about. And once you have your first experiences, then everything changes. Because in the past, before I had my first experiences, I thought maybe this is something that people just imagine. Maybe they're just fantasizing. People have vivid imaginations, and I would always hear people have all kinds of experiences, and I was very skeptic to it. I was like, well, I don't know. I need to experience it myself to believe it. And then when you have that experience, a few of them, and then you start seeing that this is actually real, you put your life in perspective, and you ask yourself, what is important now that I know this? Is it to make more movies? Is it to have my name in the end credits? Is it to be cool like that, or to work on a next project? Or is it to explore like the more interesting topics, like what is consciousness? What is life? Where do we go after death? All of these things.
That's really awesome. As in, what I like about that is that me personally in my past, like I've also explored a lot of different things, but the most things that I explored were more, let's say, mainstream accepted. So that there's this whole range of spiritual searches or paths you can go on, but things like astral projection are kind of out there for the average person, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
So I would never allow myself in the past to explore these things, because I would have this inner blockage, or like basically people are going to think you're ridiculous, or, you lose credibility or whatever. And that would keep me from trying these things. Then I think about 2 years ago, I let that go, and I started doing some Qigong or Tai Chi type of meditation, where you're smiling to your organs, and something that for me was completely ridiculous, but it helped me so much. Like, it made me feel way more energized, feel better. And after that, I noticed, like, I dropped the whole judging myself for actually trying these things. And I think many people are in the same position. And I think what you're saying is, like, you had a really deep curiosity and you just followed it regardless of what society would tell you, like, this is kind of weird, or this will never work, or this is ridiculous, or like, who does this? And you did it, and then when you have the experience, I mean, that's actually the only way to find out. And what do you have to lose, And I think that's really great, and it's a good inspiration for other people as well to try something, even though, like, the world can say it's never going to work. Like, if you want to explore it, just do it, So that's really, really nice. Yeah.
Pretty brave. And does the world give you a lot of shit for it? Do you get a lot of criticism, disbelief, or whatever?
Surprisingly, no, not really. I mean, I don't really hang out with a lot of people that are totally against these kind of things either. I don't spend time with, I guess, super, super normal people. And even those people, I feel like everyone has a curiosity within themselves. Everyone is a human. Everyone is wondering what is happening after we die. What are we? What's happening around us? Look up. You see stars that are light years away, and you're in a spinning planet in space. There is so much stuff we don't know, and I think even the average person knows that there is so much more to explore. So when you talk about these things, there might be some resistance for some of them, but it still creates some curiosity, and they're very curious. Like, okay, tell me more. Like, what do you mean? How does it feel? What is it good for? Why would I do this? Like, they want to know more usually. And some of them become super interested and even try it themselves and have experiences within the first weeks or so. And then everything changes for them as well.
I love that the way you're getting into this, or got into this, is because you wanted to explore consciousness. You wanted to understand reality, and you brought it in from that perspective, and not because you wanted to fly or see the pyramids or whatever. Have you made huge progress in these areas? Have you understood more about reality thanks to astral travel and lucid dreaming, etc.?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, since I started, especially working with this, and I've been doing, practicing and also teaching students and learning from their experiences, from my experiences, and also there's so much literature out there right now about this and other topics that are related, like near-death experiences, for example. If you listen to people's experiences about when they have these near-death experiences, they talk about out-of-body experiences that are involuntary. They're, having a moment of death, essentially. They're leaving their body, they're seeing the light tunnel, they're having a very profound experience, and then they come back to their body. I'm like, oh my God, what was that? That's with those people. And then astral projection, out-of-body experiences, is when you initiate that kind of experience yourself and you leave your body and it's completely safe and all that. And you look at those two different things, you see there's a lot of commonalities. And also with past life regression, when hypnosis, people get in hypnosis and they're being taken back in time to when they were 1 year, 0 years, and before that, and they report how they died in their previous life, also reporting the same things of how something happened and they start to, their body, physical body got injured, they physically died, and then they floated up from their body, start to float up into the sky, and there was a light tunnel or whatever. It's very similar things. So you start to kind of gather information from all of different topics, and you start to get a better understanding of what reality is and how it works, the mechanics of it, and what to kind of expect when this is over, and why you are here and what you're supposed to be focused on while you're in this physical life. There's a lot of things, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course.
So when you first started leaving your body and you did basically the astral travel, when you came back and you thought about the experience, what were the first things that, you see the room, then you maybe go a bit further, you leave your body. When that happens, is there a moment when you're like, okay, reality is not what I thought it was, and then how do you reframe that for yourself? What is reality to you now compared to what is reality to you before the experience? Is there a before and after, or is it more like a gradual shift, or how? Can you tell a bit, talk a bit about that?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. For me, exploring reality and understanding reality is a bit like exploring an onion. There's many layers to it. So it's not like you have an out-of-body experience and then you just understand everything. Well, it could happen, but it's usually like a gradual process of peeling the layers of the onion. To me, the way I see the universe is it's a fractal-based system, and the way that you can look at nature, you look at plants, you see how they're structured with fractal geometry. I see life and these different universes and dimensions being created in the same way. There's countless dimensions of reality where people are living like we're having lives here, but in different frequencies of reality. So a bit like you have a radio that you can tap into different channels to listen to different music channels. The frequencies are all around in the air, but the radio is able to tap into specific ones and just listen to that specific sound from that frequency. It's very similar to how we can do that with our consciousness. We can get into different frequencies and explore other reality systems, and they can be completely different. You go into one reality systems where there might be giants walking around and it's normal in that environment, and they look at you very confused when you look at them confused. And you have what I call an astral what the fuck moment, where you see something that you've never seen or thought it was possible before, because that's normal in that reality. And then you go maybe to another reality where they have some incredible technologies that we haven't even started to discover yet, and it's very futuristic. And you can go to another reality where they haven't invented fire maybe. So there's all kinds of evolutionary places, and what I see is what's happening is that consciousness is multidimensional, and it's exploring itself in all of these different possible variations all over the place, in every possible form, in every possible way, in every possible timeline and configuration. There's no limit to it. It can do anything, and it does everything. And it blows your mind when you have these kind of perceptions and you see these things happening, and you put that in perspective to your own life and the world around us. To me, it helps because it's a bit like, imagine if you lived all your life in your room and the only thing you knew was just your room and the things that are in your room. That would be one experience. But now imagine that you found that there was a door to this room, and you opened it and you start to explore the neighborhood, and now you're seeing other places, other rooms, other people, and you start to see how your room now fits into this bigger version of reality. When you come back to your room, it gives you a very interesting perspective on your life and your world around you, a more expanded perspective that is very helpful. Because when you have a problem then in your room, you know, your iron board broke down, it's not the whole world. It's like, oh, whatever. It's just a little thing. There's a whole...
Like Plato's cave, no? Is it Plato's cave? Where they only see the shadows, and then one person goes outside and sees actual reality, comes back and tells the tale.
Yeah.
To ease the skeptics amongst the audience, do you know, or could you answer how you know it's not all imagination? Have you contrasted it in any way? Like, have you seen stuff that has been later been agreed upon by other people or something like this? Or
yes, so this happens all the times with our students. Obviously, one of the most interesting thing for most beginners is to, and it's also important to have some sort of confirmation that what is happening is not just you imagining it, right? So although the experience itself is so convincing that you don't think that it was imagination, because it's so different. It's like this. It's like, I'm seeing you right now, you know this is real. That's how that is, so real. It's sometimes even more real. But still, when we come back, our ego mind is like, maybe I was just dreaming, maybe that wasn't real. Like, there's always these kind of thoughts that comes and bogs us down. And so people like to do experiments. And this happens all the time, that they have some sort of experience, that maybe they go visit a friend and they see what they're doing, and then they come back and say, hey, were you just doing this and wearing these clothes and saying these things to your partner? And like, oh my God, yes. Like, oh shit, I saw that.
please don't come
yeah, exactly. That sounds.
don't get into my bedroom from 12 to 4. That's my time.
Do it, and I'm gonna spy on you. I'm gonna hang around your bedroom
For
looking
both
at
of
you.
us.
Exactly.
First thought.
Well, it's not your bedroom I'm spying on.
But speaking about spying, what's more interesting is that this is, this is not a secret for the U.S. government. They've been doing this for many years. In the 70s, they created a project called Project Stargate, where they were spying on the Russians, and the Russians were spying on them using remote viewing and astral projection. And they invested millions of dollars into this. So, you know, if this was something that was just like a crazy hippie, thing that wasn't real, then why would they even bother investing so much money and time and effort in training these people to actually do this themselves? That's one of those things. You can actually read about it on their website. If you go to the CIA's website, they have released a PDF file where it states these things on there, and it's fascinating to read that PDF file.
I think the methods, how they did it, are also available, right? As in, that for that specific CIA project, that the way you can achieve this state is that also online that you know of, or is it just the results of the study or of what they did?
In the report, there is some steps on how to do it, but it's not very detailed. Yeah. It's more talking about that you can learn it at the Moreau Institute, right, which is where the agents would go at that time to learn how to have these experiences and how to use it to spy on the Russians or to see into the future.
Or even into the moon. I'm reading a book now by, I don't know, I think Ingo, I don't know exactly what it is. Ingo Swan.
Yeah, remote view.
It's called Penetration, but not in the way that you're thinking, Luciano. No, I mean, it's about, he's being hired by the US government, I think, to basically, with his remote viewing abilities that they are exploring at a university, to remote view locations on the moon, which is it's definitely, it's something else.
That's out there.
It's out there, yeah, but it's very enjoyable for me to read, and it sounds like the guy makes some good points. And I also wanted to ask you about is there a difference between remote viewing and astral projection? Like, is it the same thing? Is it a different thing? Because he speaks a lot about what you said, like the confirmation thing. For him, it's very important with the remote viewing, like that you basically, after you only remote view things, that you can actually get confirmation on that are actually happening. if not, and that's why he initially didn't want to remote view the moon, is because like, yeah, there's no way to confirm that it's actually true what I'm seeing, basically. So
yeah, so I like to always talk about like the experiences, how different they are. And the remote viewing experience is something that you would sit down, usually with a pen and paper, and you kind of go into meditative state, and then you start to target a specific thing that you want to find information about. And then you start to get information downloads, like you start seeing images, you start maybe hearing sounds, feeling smells, and sensations come to you, and information come to you. You start to write it down, the things that you're experiencing, or downloading.
Yeah.
I would say it's kind of like it's like a channeling, you know, modern way of channeling. Astral projection is different because you will not be physically active. You'll be putting your body to sleep, and then you'll be moving away from the body, and you'll be traveling without the body in a sort of, you're kind of like a point of consciousness. If you look down, you don't really have a body. Only if you think that you should have a body, you start to actually project a body, and you start to grow out your fingers, and you start to see hands and stuff like that. Otherwise, you don't really have it. And you would go to that target location through astral projection, and you will actually be there. You will look around just like you're looking around here, and you will see different things, and you're present in that place, fully present.
So you would interact with whatever's happening in the place, like the giants you mentioned before?
Yeah, in a very crazy way. Like you will be, yeah, super interactive with everything. You could touch everything, you could smell things, you can see things, and the experience is so vivid, so strong. Like if you, for example, if you meet with your deceased loved one, which is one of the things that people want to do with this practice, when you see them and when you hug them, the sensations are so powerful. Like you really feel their love. Like you really feel people in a very deep way. So a lot of times you don't even have to ask people something, or the creatures you're talking to. You can just feel what they are thinking or who they are. Like you just get this sense, because intuition is very strong, and you can fly, you can teleport, you can put your hands through the wall, and you can feel the surfaces and the materials in the wall and all the small intricate details. Or you can look at your hands and put up some, take out some dirt, and you can see the molecules of that dirt. So it's a very different perception than you have in the physical.
that sounds awesome, but I would probably lose my fucking mind. Like I would probably have like a psychosis after. I mean, like what the hell is real? Like how do you deal with that? Like for me, it sounds incredible and awesome, and I definitely want to try it. I'm gonna learn how to do it. But then like reframing your whole reality, even the thing with the loved one, like you go back, or like you go into that state and you connect with a loved one. And what you said, like it has a lot of parallels with psychedelics. I think like the connection, not talking with words, but like more direct feeling communication.
Yeah.
I think with psychedelics, if people experience it, it's way easier to be like, when you're in that moment, I've been there, and then like, yeah, it feels super real. And the more time after passes, the less your mind starts kicking in. It's like, yeah, it was probably just the mushrooms or whatever. It wasn't
Exactly.
real. But with this, because it's not induced by something exogenous, and you're doing it yourself and you can repeat it, it would probably, for many people, I would assume, would at least would put them in the equivalent. How do you say that word?
Equilibrium.
Yeah, that thing.
Make you balanced.
Unbalanced. That's exactly.
You get unbalanced.
You get unbalanced. Like, do you have that yourself or with your students? Like, people come to you, and then do you also have to help people like rebalance? Or yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the thing is that when you're having these experiences, they're gonna last for a few minutes up to an hour maximum. It's not like it's gonna be your whole day. It's gonna be out of body. So that means that only a few % of your day would be having this altered state of consciousness experience. For the most part, you will still be in the physical form, a human being going to work, having a normal life, and that will take most of your time. So this is something that you would do on the side. And so because of that, it's not like it suddenly just takes over your life and you're no longer able to go to work or anything. But that's a common fear that people have, that, oh, what if I lose my mind? What if I no longer like function as a normal human being. It doesn't work like that. It's when you come back 100% feeling very grounded and normal. The only thing that I've heard to some people, like it can happen in a negative way, is that they would experience a different reality that was so much more loving and beautiful and blissful that when they come back, it's almost hard to be here because it's like, wow, I just saw this dimension that was like so much love, and people actually were caring for each other a lot more than here, and there was no wars or whatever. And then it's difficult for a while to integrate back into the physical. But that takes a few weeks, and then you're kind of, okay, well, I'm here right now, and this is a temporary human experience, and I know that these other places exist, and hopefully I'll go back there again if I want to.
So from what I've understood so far, the way it works, from what you're saying, is that consciousness is exploring itself via us, amongst other things. And through this meditative state, if consciousness is everything there is, you can access consciousness in different points. Is this right?
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, yes.
And my next question would be, then how do you do it? I don't know if you can share this.
Yeah, sure. Of course. So the steps
I'm definitely going to explore.
Yeah, exactly. For sure, man.
Yeah, the thing is, so there's no drugs involved, because a lot of times when I talked about this to normal people, they're like, oh, okay, so what did you smoke to have that? Like, no, there's no drugs involved. Actually, it's one of those things you have to be as sober and as healthy as possible to have the experiences. So you have to, eat well, but don't eat before going to sleep, a big meal. Don't have alcohol before going to sleep. No drugs at all. And you have to have a good sleep hygiene, go to sleep early, get good amount of sleep so you're not tired and stuff like that. And then there is different methods. There's different ways of doing this. And we teach the 3 main methods to this. So if I were to explain them, it's quite simple. It's like the first one is how you can transition into this state through dreaming. So you can teach yourself to become aware that you are dreaming by doing reality checks and constantly questioning yourself if you're dreaming. And that behavior then takes over in the dream state as well. And in the dream state, if you ask yourself if you're dreaming, and if you even look at your hands, for example, in the dream, your hands might look very different. You might have 3 fingers or 6 fingers, or they might be transparent. And at that point, oh, I am dreaming. And then at that point, you can take control with the dream. So it becomes a lucid dream. And from that point on, you can simply just say, take me out of body now, or astral projection now, or different commands like that make sense to you, that will take you from that state. And then you transition it simply from that state into an astral projection state. So what can happen at that point is that the environment you were previously in will just kind of melt away. And now suddenly you might find yourself in your living room or somewhere else. That will be one way.
So just to be clear, is it then the living room in that state at that time, or is it what type of living room is it? As in the things change, the locations change. Would it be this exact room as it is now, or this day, or like how does, or is it like how does it work basically?
Good question. So most of these experiences are heavily impacted by your subconscious. So you have a conscious control over it, but at the same time, a deeper part of you is taking over and controlling the experience as well. So the thoughts that you would have before or while you're doing this, dispelling the dream, as we call it, where you just allow the dream to fade away, the thoughts that you would have at that point of where you want to be after would be taking you to that place. So if maybe you feel yourself like you are at home, then you would go to that place. Is it in the now time, or in the future time, or in the past? Don't know. It could be any of those.
Depends on what you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so then that will be the one of the techniques, and that's the first method that we teach. The second method is a way to enter this state from waking up from sleep. So upon awakening from sleep, basically. So when you're the first seconds when you wake up from sleep, if you just lay there, don't move, and perform a certain techniques, you can then start to exit your body. And I call that a semi-indirect method. It's quite easy for some people that are light sleepers because they wake up multiple times during the night, and they can catch many of these moments when they know they just regain consciousness, but they remember just to lay still. And in that moment, they can start performing certain techniques like imagining certain movements like running or jumping or something. And then when that feels real, they can actually just shift away, just move away from the bed, out of body.
Yeah, that's a good question. So from that, my question would like, so in the second method, you skip the lucid dreaming part.
Yeah.
So you basically directly, by imagining these things, you go out of body, and then you are in your room at that point in time. But the first one, you go through the dream, lucid dream, then you're like basically prompting yourself, in the AI way, like prompting yourself out of the dream into something new. And in this method, you just directly go out of the body.
Yeah, so this one, so the first one is a bit more indirect, and then we actually call it the indirect method. The second one is the semi-indirect method because it's still happening through a phase of sleep that you're coming out of and then regaining consciousness and remembering what to do. The third one is the direct method, which is you're laying down and you're not sleeping, you're just laying down, meditating, focusing on relaxing to the point where you get to so deep that you start to experience these non-physical sensations, like you hear vibration or you feel vibrations, like which is this weird electric moving sensation of energy through your body. It can feel frightening for some people. And it can also be coupled with a very loud sound of a jet engine or weird buzzing sounds or even people's voices or something weird. And at that point, when you get there, you know that you're deep enough to the point where your body is now completely asleep. And you know that if you try to move from that state, if you try to sit up from the bed that you're in, the body will be completely still. It's paralyzed. It's in sleep paralysis. And you can now just sit up, move away from the bed, and you're now standing next to your bed without your physical body. And for the most part, at that point, you will have no vision. It's just completely black. You don't see anything. You can feel yourself being out of body because you know you just moved, but you don't see anything. So then you have to command the vision to appear. You have to make commands like awareness now, vision now, clarity now, these different things that will start to tell your consciousness that you want to see with your non-physical eyes. And then slowly the environment appears, and now you're like looking around, you're like, oh my God, I did it. I'm out of body. And now you have to remain calm because if you get too excited, you will be sucked back to the body. So the moment when you manage to remain calm and you float around and you can just fly out your window or the wall and explore your neighborhood and have that experience. It's a very magical moment. It's the moment where you realize that you are not that body that you've been thinking that you are your whole life. And that's a very powerful experience to have.
It's a great thing because I've been on the verge of this many times, I think. I actually had I'm seeing the room, but then I thought like, I'm probably just opening my eyes. Who knows? Maybe I was opening my eyes. And to me, it always gets back to that. As soon as I get kind of into that state, I get excited and I snap myself out of it. Would you have any advice to how to countermeasure that? Like just stay calm, or is there like a practice you can do or whatever?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to know what your sort of sticking points are. So if you got to that state where you get too excited, then you know, okay, my sticking point is that I'm getting excited when I get close. Right. So you have to practice that specific thing. So you can lay down just before the practice and just rehearse. Okay, I'm now getting into that state where normally I get excited. What do I actually want to do instead? I want to just relax myself, be calm. So you kind of program the things that you actually want to achieve in that moment. And you do it a few times because the thing is, when you are that deep, your subconscious is taking over a lot. So even though maybe consciously you want to do one thing, your subconscious is doing something else. That's why one of the things that we work on with our students is with hypnotherapy to deal with different fears and blockages. Because you might want to get out of body, but there's a blockage in yourself saying, oh, what if I die? Or what if I don't come back to my body? You know, like these limiting beliefs might come up. So you need to solve that with hypnotherapy. That's a really good way to remove those blockages from the subconscious mind, so that when you get there again and your subconscious starts taking over that moment, it will actually help you to get out of body instead of block you from getting out of body.
Okay. Do you think anybody can do this? Anybody can learn how to do this?
When I started with this, I wasn't even sure if I could do this. I had a limiting belief where I thought, well, I never had any experiences in meditation. I'm not a gifted person in this way. So
how long ago was this? Sorry.
Okay, probably like 8 years now or something.
Okay.
Maybe even 10. And I had, I had a limiting belief that I wasn't going to be gifted enough to do this, because I normally don't have these kind of extra sensory experiences. But to my surprise, I could do it. And then continuing my journey on teaching other people, I found the same thing there too. Like, everyone can do it, you know, old person, young person. What's important is to be open-minded. What's the problem is with when people have too many belief filters that are holding them back. Like if you're really indoctrinated in a specific religion and you think reality is like this and only like this, and you are unable to open yourself up to something else, then that's going to be a blockage. So usually that's what keeps people from having experiences, is different blockages of fear or limiting belief. But if you can actively work on those and let go of all of those things and just be in this state of fully surrendering, fully being present and in the flow state, then you can do it. And it's just like any practice. It's like a muscle that you just train over and over again, and you get better and better at getting into that state and getting out of body.
It's pretty good, because I think it's, and in general, something that's very good for people to do, to basically disconnect from their like subconscious programming most of the time. Like all of the, for example, what I said about my limiting belief, or I had this idea about myself that I had to be rational. I shouldn't believe something that is quote unquote irrational, but it can be many things. So if I understand what you're saying, like for example, with the hypnotherapy or just working on yourself and trying to understand what these limiting beliefs are, or like how you have been programmed by society, if you remove those, you will be able to learn astral projection. But probably also in general, your life's gonna be a lot more interesting, because you don't have all these. You're a way more free individual, I guess, in normal life as well. So I guess both for the astral projection part as for just living in the good life, it's a good path to walk.
Yes, like so above, so below, or that saying, like it's like that. The things you would need to do to learn to become better at astral projection are the same things that you'll need to do to become better in the physical. Sometimes people think that people that are into this stuff want to escape reality, but it's interesting because you actually get to appreciate your reality much more, because you see the extended version of it. And I definitely resonate with what you said. It's going to help you on all levels, yes.
And going back to the dreams for a second, from what I understood until now, is when you're dreaming, it's basically yourself without being aware of what's happening. But when you're astral projecting, is it the same, just that you're aware of what you're doing? Is it correct what I'm saying according to you, or no?
No, it's different. So what we're talking about when we are talking about astral projection, we're talking about conscious astral projections, because you can have, and people have all the time, unconscious astral projections, which is one of the things that is also interesting, that even though people don't practice this, everybody has these experiences sometimes during the night, but they're usually not remembered, and they're usually discarded for being a crazy dream or interesting dream, or I was flying above a city that was cool, felt really real, but it was probably just a dream. So that's a unconscious astral projection, but it could also be an unconscious lucid dream, and we can talk about the differences there too. But when we talk about conscious astral projections, which is what we're training for to do, it's a way to have control. You have conscious awareness with you in that state. So you get out of body and you remember what your goals were with that projection. Like, okay, I wanted to go and visit my friend, or I wanted to go and connect with my deceased loved one, or visit an astral plane to heal, or whatever it is that you want to do. You remember your plan of action, and then you move with that. You focus on that, and you constantly have to stabilize your awareness throughout the experience, so that you don't lose that awareness. Because if you don't do it, you can start to kind of drift into this kind of autopilot state. But if you keep working on your awareness, you can heighten it, so you can be clear on the things that you want to do, the things that you want to focus on, so that you can actually get those things done. Now, the only issue is that, like I said before, your subconscious will be controlling this as well. So you might have a conscious idea that you want to go and do this very important scientific test with your friend of seeing what he wrote on the wall in his room. But once you get out of body, like another part of you is taking over, and it's like, wow, look at the sky. I want to fly into the sky and check out the planets there. And you just end up doing that instead. That can also happen.
Your deepest desire takes control, I guess.
Yeah, deeper parts of you, is controlling it more.
So, from what I understand, then you kind of become the creator of your reality through this astral projection, don't you?
In a way, yes, but in other ways, no. Like, so with lucid dreaming, for example, you would be in control of the experience. If you wanted to, you can control the lighting, maybe not the lighting, but the colors of the walls, and you can create anything, changing the environment essentially. And things are very dynamic, and you're the creator of that environment. You can create environments, you can change them, and you're also the explorer of that environment. So it's like a subjective reality that you're exploring and creating at the same time. That would be a lucid dreaming environment. We call it the mental plane, just to make it easier to think about it as different frequencies, different dimensions. And so there's a dimension called the mental plane, where you can just create things and explore things. And we call that also lucid dreaming. And then there is the astral planes, which are actually real places that exist within these frequencies. And if you wanted to change the buildings or do something with the architecture, you won't be able to do that, because those are there are other consciousness sharing that space. It's not just you. So you can't just like change things around. But you can create things with your hands, for example. You can create fire, or you can levitate objects, or you have these special powers that are really cool. Yeah.
Okay.
That's really cool. But
any power you can imagine, or have you ever not been able to use a power?
Good question. I haven't experienced that. I've tried some powers that I didn't.
Can you do like a Kamehameha, or I don't know if you've ever seen Dragon Ball Z or whatever?
I never tried it, but I think you can, because I remember in one experience there was this group of people that I met, and they were playing with fire with their hands. They're like able to create fire with their hands, and they were moving fireballs in the air and like throwing it to each other. And I was like, wow, how do you guys do this? This is so cool. And they're like, you can also do this. I'm like, what?
This is so easy.
Of course.
And I did it, and it was that easy. I was just like, just the thought of doing it, and then I just had fire moving in my hand, and I was like so shocked. I was like, oh my God, it's true. And I could fly, and I could do fires and all kinds of stuff.
Another question. I have many questions. Stop me if it gets too much. But if consciousness is all there is, and you're this one entity accessing different parts of consciousness, different vibration, different frequencies, right? Have you ever tried to feel consciousness as a whole? Like to be able to access multiple points, or to feel expansion, or...
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is having that experience of oneness, right? When you feel connected with everything and everyone and all of that. It's an experience that I really want to have through astral projection. It's not something I've had yet personally, but I do have I have friends who've had it through the astral projection practice. I've had something similar through psychedelics, like Bufo Alvarius, for example. Very powerful stuff. Yeah.
So I hear. I haven't tried Wolfram.
Haven't tried it. Yeah,
What is that? Is it the toad venom?
it's the toad venom. Yeah, that's very strong and profound as well. I would recommend it for those that want to go really far in a few minutes like that.
Boom.
Boom.
From what I hear, yeah, it knocks you on your...
Is it a DMT? A different type of DMT?
It's the most powerful DMT on the planet. It takes you, you have to be really brave to do it, of course, because it's very, very powerful. You have to be okay with the idea of dying. You have to let go of your ego. You have to let go of identity and everything you know and all of that. And the thing is, this is not for everybody. You know, doing that is not for everybody. So for me, what I find really inspiring and the mission, if I would say, with what we're doing is to find a way to facilitate experiences of oneness through astral projection. Because if you can experience being one with everything and understanding your interconnectedness with everything, that's when you have that deep, profound healing experience that, you know, you no longer see yourself separate and you no longer see yourself as in competition with other people and all of that. There's so much healing that will take place at that point. And I think that is the most important experience to have, you know, that will just beat anything that you can possibly imagine. And it's even hard to imagine it just by talking about it with words now.
Yeah, but I guess if that's a good goal to have, as in, I would imagine if you truly can capture or live that moment of oneness with everything, like, why would you fight? Why would you hit someone? Why would you try and, you know, outcompete anyone? Why would you not focus more on, because it's like a visceral understanding of, if I hurt you, I'm actually hurting a different version of myself, or I am hurting myself. So why do it? So I guess if we could all have that experience and live in a more compassionate way, I guess that's a pretty great goal to have. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's when we're talking about these things right now, it sounds great, and you know, for the listeners, like, oh, this is good. Yeah, I like it. It's good. But the thing is, these are just words, and it's when you have the experience that everything changes. You know, we come here to have a human experience, and it's something that you couldn't explain to someone in words and say, oh, being human is like this. Love is like this, or feeling pain in your knee is like that, or like, it's very difficult to explain with words. You have to experience how it is to be human. That's what we're here to actually have, the first-hand experience. So it's the same with these other spiritual things like leaving your body and stuff like that. It's all good to talk about it, but it isn't until you have the experience that you're like, oh my God, now I understand. And that understanding takes you to a new sort of perception that is very, very helpful. Fear goes away. You know, a lot of these fears that we have of dying, fear of so many things, we have so many fears in our human existence. Those start to drift away because you're now seeing a bigger version of the truth.
So what can your future students, or what can they expect? Like the program, is it like a video course? Is it a step-by-step program? Do you have one-on-one conversations with people? Both this, like, how does the course look? Like, how are you helping people achieving this? And also, like, expectation-wise, let's say I want to learn how to astral project. Is there maybe I shouldn't expect anything, but like, what should people, in the sense of how fast is it going to work? Am I going to get there? Because maybe that itself can lead to become a limiting belief. But like, based on your experience, like, what is a general like progression of someone who starts out and goes through the course, and what's the first point that they realize something? Is the lucid dreaming? Could you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so first I want to say that when I created the course, I realized, you know, I was the perfect person to look at myself, because I wasn't a gifted, you know, spiritual person that was just doing this like this. Because some people actually are able to do it very easily. They can just lay down and boom, it just happens, even spontaneously. And for me, I wasn't one of those. I was like, it took me time, you know, I had to really like use different soundtracks and frequencies and technologies, and it wasn't easy. So I created a program in a way that it would facilitate people like me, people that weren't naturally gifted, someone that was completely like maybe even very rational and not very like open-minded to all of this stuff, and someone like that, someone like me, you know. And one of the things that I found as a problem with the places that I learned was that it was usually during a short period of time, maybe over a few days, and you got a lot of information, but then afterwards you were left on your own to do the practice. And this is a practice that doesn't take a few days or a few weeks. It takes months to learn, and it takes probably years to master. And so when you were left on your own afterwards, that was a bit of an issue. So what I wanted to do with the program that I created was to solve that. So our program is 3 months long, so that you have enough time to learn all the 3 methods and also have enough time to practice them and get stuck a few times and then be able to come to the coaching and get unstuck. So the way that it's sort of designed is that you start with the program. In the first week, you just learn all the 3 methods through videos, because this is good because you can actually rewatch them whenever you get lost and stuff. And then you have these special soundtracks that we created that will guide you with the specific method. So different methods have different soundtracks, and they will guide you in the practice so you know what to do. And then you will have the situations where you get lost, like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? I didn't work, I got stuck, la. That's when you come to the coaching sessions. So then you have coaching with our coaches, and they will help you to get unstuck and to know what you have to do. And in the coaching session, it's very technical, very much like do this, do that, don't do this. But it's also a lot of a mindset, because this is usually the problem with most people, is that we get into toxic mindsets. For example, this thing that you're just saying now, the pressure that you put on yourself, like, well, I have to get a body within the first week because John, he did it on the first day, so I should do it like at least in 2 days, no? And you have to let go of these kind of pressures and to be able to get a body. You can't be tense about it. So, we say focus on the practice, focus on the process, don't focus on the outcome. It's very important. And it's the same with life, right? Yeah. Same thing there.
You tell me. I've been through the exact same thing, yeah.
And it's only when you surrender deeply that you can actually get out of body. And it's the same with life as well. It's only when you surrender to something that it will happen, because otherwise you're too tense and you're creating this resistance energy. And so we're taking people through that. And then if they have problems that are a bit more difficult to solve, that are not consciously able to just kind of debate about or talk about it, then we'll send them to the hypnotherapist on our team to work with them on a deeper level to resolve the blockages that they might have.
Is that all digital, the hypnotherapy as well? Like, does it go through like Google Meet or Skype, or is it a physical thing? Or
everything is online, so you can do it from your home, but it's with the real person, and it's like you're talking to a hypnotherapist and they're guiding you. It's really nice.
If you had to put a number on it, like, what do you guess your success rate would be with the students?
It's hard to put a number on it, but what we've seen is that the students that have a good mindset, and they're very open-minded, and they're dedicated to the practice, they succeed. They start getting out of body, right? And then, depending on the student's evolutionary, how evolved they are in their spiritual journey, they might have really profound experiences, meeting with their spiritual guides and having like these very profound experiences, or they might just like float around their living room and put their hand through the wall, and that's super exciting as well. But it's I think the most problematic thing with students that join online programs in general is that, it's a bit like joining the gym. You join the gym and you really want to have the results, you want to have the muscles, but
you don't want to put in the work.
You want to put in the work. It's like, and there is work to put in. There's a routine that you need to keep up. You have to do this practice on a regular basis. You have to go to sleep early and wake up early and do this meditation. And if you're not willing to put in the practice, put in the work, it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Can I ask you, besides the benefits you already mentioned, which benefits does the astral projection bring into life? Because you mentioned you get a better feeling of the oneness of the universe, you get a better understanding of consciousness. But have people increased their well-being in their lives in any specific ways due to the program?
Yeah, so you can do, like, one of the things that people like to do with astral projection is healing work. So we had one student that had a kidney disease, that her kidneys was at 12% functionality. And through the guidance that she was getting from her spiritual guides, these these entities that she met, they're teaching her how she could actually heal her body. They're giving her valuable information on what she could do in the physical and in the non-physical to heal. And doing the things that they told her for up to like a year, I think it was, she got her kidneys up to 80% functionality, and she no longer had to actually take them out or exchange them. And that's a really good one. Another person was had a skin problem that he couldn't fix it with medicine or any creams or anything. And he thought, maybe I should try this astral projection practice that I've learned. So he went out of body, and then in this out of body state, he created a healing cream, just like the way I was talking about that you can create fire. He created a healing cream and put on his arms in this out of body state. Felt refreshing, felt interesting. And then he came back to his body, looked at his arms and his body, and there was no difference. It was the same. Problem was still there. But
I really thought he was going to say everything was gone.
Yeah, look, your face.
He had me going.
Magic. Now, problem was still there, but after 2 weeks, it faded away slowly, you know, and it never came back. And he healed from that thing.
So beautiful. It's like a way to accessing deep unconscious problems, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're in the back end in a bit, you know. You kind
of you're altering the code.
You're altering the code of yourself, and you can do self healing, but you can also heal other people. There's a lot of stuff in this field that's like super interesting and hasn't been explored enough. Like, science should definitely go on to this and understand more how this works, because it can be so useful. So that's one of the things. You can heal physical things, but you can also heal childhood traumas and stuff like that. Sometimes what happens to people when they start getting out of body, they might want to go to some beautiful astral city, but instead they're taken to their childhood home where they had a trauma, that they were maybe beaten up by their stepdad or something. And until they solved that, they can't progress with their journey. So they're taken on a healing journey through that projection practice. It's a bit like also with psychedelics. You know, it's very similar. You have to heal traumas before you can go to higher places. But in the astral projection practice, you'll actually experience it as a real environment with people, yeah.
So you believe that after death, since you're a man that likes to figure out how things work, we would be in a constant state like that, like the astral projection state, where you can, as consciousness, access any point in time, space, dimension, etc.? Do you have any thoughts about it? Don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but
my understanding of the exact mechanics of death is constantly evolving and changing, and I'm still learning about it. But as I understood right now, is that when we die, we will be moving from this physical state to an out-of-body, non-physical state, and we have clothes in that state for some reason. We're essentially going to look like and have the appearance of whatever we expect ourselves to have. And sometimes people that die old end up looking younger.
Like the Matrix, kind of.
Or like the Christian heaven, you know, like everybody's young and beautiful again, like you, yeah.
That's a good...
I like the Matrix better.
Christian Listen heaven. To Jesus, Luciano, I'm sorry.
Christian, happy that you brought that up. Christian heaven, you know, exists. There is like all these different heavens that people have believed in for centuries. There are places like that where you can go to. So if you are super Christian, it's very possible that you're going to be taken or end up in a Christian heaven dimension.
What about now? I'm like, what? Let's say, is it a real reality in the sense, like, let's say I believe in Christian heaven, and my version of Christian heaven, I'm reunited with my family, and everyone's there. My beautiful dog is there waiting for me, and then You know, I go there, but like all of them, they didn't believe in this Christian reality. They are, let's say they're Muslims. They are Muslim heaven. Like, will I still, I mean, it's super, I know you don't have all the answer, but I'm like, how does this work? Like, is this consciousness projecting, are you projecting, creating this reality, you think? Or is it actually made up out of consciousnesses that have believed this reality, and those consciousnesses go into this heaven realm? Let's just say, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Are you simulating this? Or is this thing created and other consciousness move into the same direction? Because heaven, for someone who's a Christian, and maybe I'm going to the heaven realm, but if my family is Muslim, it's a pretty damn boring heaven realm possibly for me. You know, want to see my goddamn dog, and he don't believe in Jesus.
Yeah, I think based on my understanding is that it's going to be based on belief systems. So if you believe in the Christian heaven, it's very possible that you're going to end up there, or you might not end up there and get very confused about everything. But your other family members that would be Muslims, they will probably not end up there because they were not, believing in the same thing as you are.
Yeah.
So there will be different paths. But I do think that there is a way for you to also see them again in some way.
The way I see it, sorry for interjecting, is that we assume that the consciousness you have right now inside your body is the only one there is. If there's infinite dimensions and whatnot, there probably are a few Joshuas out there that believe in Christian heaven, and I don't know.
Right. Yeah, they all, in the end, there's one version of me that's a Muslim. He will go to the Muslim.
Maybe, who knows?
Version of my family, in the it could be.
All I'm saying is that we believe that we're limited to this one body.
Good point.
While on the other hand, we're saying that we're all one.
Yeah.
So in the all one kind of
it's confusing
theory, I think there can be a Christian heaven where also your dog is too.
Thank Jesus.
I think for the human mind, all of this stuff is always going to be super confusing. It's almost like it's only when you get into these more expanded states of consciousness, this altered state of consciousness, that you can like have this moments of like, I understand now, everything is one. Yeah. But from a human mind point of view, it's when you're here in this frequency, it's like, how does this even work? Like, it's really
and the confusingness also makes it like difficult. I mean, religion in general and many things have exploited people, I would say, because of their fears and maybe by their projections of heaven, created a heaven in a different dimension where the people actually will go. Like, I don't know, but at the same point, like with many of these things, I mean, because people are so vulnerable and in need to believe something, I think there's also always, it opens it up to a certain exploitation of an individual. So it's a very tricky thing as well. Like, I think with many of these things, I think also I'm listening to, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm like, yeah, this could definitely all work, and I would definitely go and try it, and let's see what happens. But the moment you start speaking about, let's say, physical healing, like also you have these preachers, and they're like, yeah, I'll heal you with a sermon or something, or Jesus healed the people by touching them. There's many people believing that. And my initial response, I know that when I heard you say it, was like, oof, the guy's healing people with extra, but at the same point, what you're saying about it, it makes a lot of sense that people would be able to heal those things because of a psychosomatic connection, for example, with the skin thing. Like many of these diseases that we don't really understand, and there's definitely, I don't know, but there's definitely ways that psychologically you're influencing your biochemistry to a certain degree, and if you access that in deeper rounds of consciousness, deeper levels of consciousness, you could actually heal it. But I'm just wondering, like, is this something that you feel resistance from people around you? Like now you are an astral projection coach with a team. You are helping people to heal. Is this like, I don't know if there's any or many people in your world who are like outside of this belief system. And once you say those things, are there like, is there a lot of resistance there from normal people? And does it basically create a distance between yourself and others, or is there a lot of skepticism?
Yeah. So of course, there's going to be so many people that's going to be against the idea that you can heal in these kind of ways, and they're gonna advise taking medicine and stuff or whatever. And I think it's totally fine for people to have their own belief systems about this and explore it and see, I think at some point in my journey, I realized that I had to let go of limiting beliefs as much as possible because they were holding me back from evolving. Like if I need to have a scientific written paper on everything that's happening in the world, I will be literally stuck. I won't be able to get very far.
Yeah, you'll be centuries behind, probably.
Centuries behind, yes. I need to kind of look at, I'm still very science is important to me. Like I still have to understand how things work. I can't just be out with the fairies, like some people say, like just believe in anything. I have to sort of see it. And that's the thing, I saw, having a student that came to us with these problems and then transformed them. That was mind opening for me. It's like, oh my God, this is possible. Like sometimes there are things that are happening that I'm like, that I have to open my mind up to even more. Like, oh, this is also possible. Like the other day, a student had something crazy happen. One of our students passed away, and very unexpectedly. And his partner found my emails about astral projection and reached out to me and said, hey, I want to learn this because I want to connect with him.
Cool.
And
that's wow.
Right. And now she's going through the program, learning how to connect with him. And in the second week, she had an experience where she had sex with him in this out-of-body state.
Wow.
And that was mind-blowing. Like, oh my God, okay, that happened. And she was super happy. That was the experience that happened. There are, you go into these subjects and there are things that, they're so out there that you're going to have to make a decision, where you're going to be.
Yeah.
And with some of it, it's hard to, it's hard because you don't have, like I said, these evidence paper on the table, but you start having experiential evidences from different people and you start to connect the dots. And, if she actually had sex with him or if she just experienced having sex with him, that's also debatable what is more important. For her, she is super happy. She was, beaming of light. She was healed from that experience. It was that was so profound. I connected with him in this way. And that really helped with my grieving process. It really helped me feel better. And the skeptics might just say, oh, that was just her imagination. She just, created that in her mind. Okay, that's also a belief that you can have. You can believe that consciousness is all happening in the brain. But if it's helpful, then it's still a good thing, right?
Exactly.
Which is always the point I keep coming back to with all the spirituality in general. Everything you kind of learn from the books, from texts, from astral projection, whatever, it kind of brings you to a better way of living, at least a way of living where you're helping more, loving more, being more, caring more about your surroundings. So I don't see any harm in it as long as you don't lose your mind, as we mentioned before.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you define spirituality. I mean, if you look at organized religion, for example, you cannot be gay or all these kind of things. Getting stoned to death for being homosexual is not great. But I mean, if you look at it from spirituality in the modern sense, as in more going inside and the more maybe new age spirituality, which is, I guess, more connected to a certain self-help psychology kind of thing, then I think you're probably right. But then again, you also have risks with, if there's people involved, there's always risks, right?
There's always risk.
There can be cult leaders who are suddenly let's drink the Kool-Aid and everybody's dying, and that's not good. But at the same point, you have to contrast that with probably a very large amount of people in that in those communities that actually do a lot of great work. But I mean, it's like with everything.
Yeah, we don't want to we are not focused on belief systems, and we don't even allow people to post their beliefs in their groups and stuff. We don't want to have belief filters. We want to be free from belief filters and just have people explore reality and get their own understanding. It's all about experience. It's all about finding truth through your personal experience. And also, we don't promise anyone to have, heal their kidneys or meet with the deceased loved ones. But if we know that it's possible, that's happening multiple times, what we do guarantee people is that they will be able to have out-of-body experiences.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm down. Sign me up.
I have another question, and maybe the final one, to not keep you too long. Since you like to understand how everything works, what do you think consciousness is up to? If everything there is consciousness, what do you think?
It's a big question.
Good question.
But I mean, he's
I know.
to other dimensions.
places,
He's traveled.
exactly.
He's heard about many stories.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
true.
he has a bigger clue than some other people.
I think when you look at nature and you see what nature is doing, and you see how you have this beautiful tree that's growing and creating more branches and more trees, and those creating more trees and constantly evolving, constantly expanding. I think that's pretty much what the universe is doing all the time. It's constantly evolving, constantly expanding, and exploring all kinds of configurations of itself. It's almost like it wants to know itself. It wants to know what it can do and what it is.
So it's learning, basically.
Creating and learning.
Yeah, it's creating and learning.
Learning via creation.
Yeah.
That's one way to say it, yeah.
Yeah. And as an artist, I got this message once, this kind of knowing that the universe is at most interested in creation. So if you're someone that wants to create something, art, music, whatever it is that you want to create, the universe will always help you with that, because it's all about creation. It will always make sure to be there for you and support you in whatever you want to create, as long as it's, for the good of everything and not like a destructive thing, of course.
And also it will help you. I agree. Like I've had that experience as well, but also it will not just help you, but it will also, it feels amazing to create, and it feels amazing to go on that path and start building your things that you want to make, instead of, my personal experience, working a job that for you is meaningless. So it will also make you a way more fulfilled person in general once you move from being a passive like consumer into like an active creator. I think that also is can be a very big shift in anyone's life. So.
Yeah, it's a big spiritual journey when you start doing that, when you start to just own your own creation of life, and you design your life, you design your work, you design your thoughts, you design yourself. Like that takes you on a very powerful trip.
For all the people that are dying to sign up right now, how do they find you?
Great choice of words. I'm dying to sign up. Yeah.
For you guys out there. Well, it's simple. We have a website called elasticperception.com. And on that website, there's going to be a training video that you can watch. And this video is going to teach you a bunch of stuff for free. And then if you want to explore more, you can book a call with us and we can talk about more details about your specific situation. Maybe you're someone that has been doing this for a year or for a few years, or maybe you're a complete beginner. So we'll just kind of like take you from where you're at and find a way to help you get there.
Elasticperception.com. No?
Yep.
That's it.
That's it. Well, thank you so much for the conversation. For me, it was an extremely nice and interesting conversation to have. Definitely opened up my mind a lot. I don't know about you, Luciano, but...
Same here. I was interested before. I love meeting somebody who's actually done it. Gives me more interest. Keeps me going. So yeah, I'll keep exploring. I'll actually go on elasticperception.com to check it out.
For sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's going to be a really cool visual video, lots of visual effects there that I've been creating to visualize.
Visual effects. Nice.
Yeah, of course. Like my visual effects background is very handy now to explain these non-physical things that you cannot see with your eyes in the physical.
All right, man. Thank you so much. And maybe until next time, who knows in what state.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and letting me explain this to the world, because it's a topic that I'm very passionate about, and I know a lot of people don't understand much of it, and it's always a pleasure to be able to come to these events and explain and teach people what this is, because I find it very important for us, especially in this point in our evolution, to actually learn about our multidimensional self and know who we are and take our powers back and not like get sucked into the fear mongering that is happening all around right now.
Thank you very much.
But
Hasta la próxima.
hasta la próxima.
Eyes on Growth is an original podcast produced by Inkululeku Studios, hosted by Joshua Mullendeeks and Luciano Anz, editing by Sofia Vicente. Thank you for listening, and keep an eye out for our upcoming episode.